Are you tired of putting yourself last? Of taking care of everybody else's needs and powering through to meet the next set of impossible standards? In our fast-paced society, we lose touch with our intrinsic worth, with the ability to value ourselves for who we are right now. Instead of living life exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from your authentic self, maybe it's time to put yourself back in the life you've worked so hard to create. Join radio host and life choreographer Laura Cheadle and learn how to build your dreams and live your sparkle using the 5 steps of flaunt. Find your fetish, laugh out loud, accept unconditionally, navigate the negative, and trust in your truth.
Hello, welcome to Flaunt. Build your dreams and live your sparkle. I'm Laura Cheadle, and before I move on into introducing today's guest, who you're going to love, by the way, I want to tell you a little bit about what I have got going on. I've got a fitness scavenger hunt challenge going on right now that is so much fun. All it is a list of items like a scavenger hunt. And what you need to do is go take pictures of yourself, selfies, or have somebody else take a picture of you doing these things on the scavenger hunt. Then when you post those pictures on my Flaunt Flock Facebook group page, you will win. Now, yes, you need to go do all of these fun fitness things because it's fun and it gives you the opportunity to play and to get in shape this summer. But you will also get bonus points if you tag people. So like if you've got a group of friends and you're all complaining that you want to get in better shape, tag each other, set up your group, then you can challenge each other to go find these things and post your pictures. So points for pictures, bonus points for tagging people and including them in your team flaunt. So Facebook, Flaunt, F-L-A-U-N-T, Flock, F-L-O-C-K. Yeah, there's a picture of a flamingo there. You can get the little list of the scavenger hunt items, or you can email me, Laura, L-O-R-A, at Laura, L-O-R-A, Cheadle, C-H-E-A-D-L-E.com, Laura at lauracheadle.com, and I can email you the list of scavenger hunt items. Okay, so with that, on to introducing today's guest. We have got Miss Vidya Ragu from India. And oh my goodness, am I excited to share her story and her knowledge and her wisdom with you. She is the author of an upcoming book, Shed Fears, Not Tears. I tell you, we all need that, don't we? She's one of India's leading learning and development specialists. She is an international trainer and a keynote speaker, an award-winning entrepreneur in international forums, and a certified mentor. She is an expert panelist. She's been on so many different TV shows and radio and featured in a huge variety of print media. She's a behavioral scientist and psychologist with a technology edge, and she's got over 15 years of experience in human potential development. And I can't wait to get into that and learn more. She is also a corporate facilitator and an NLP practitioner, and NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And we'll get more into that in the show, but it's enormously powerful. She is an alternate healing practitioner. She's the advisor to many leading universities. She is just phenomenal. So I am going to quit talking about how amazing she is, and I'm going to bring her on this show so she can share her wisdom and her knowledge and her work with you. So welcome to the show, Vidya.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me there, and hi to all the listeners.
Oh, wonderful. I don't even know where to start because there's so many exciting things that you're doing.
Yeah.
But I, for one, would love to hear more about your book.
Okay. So the book is, it's just something which has been amazing, as in every time that I'm working on it, I'm experiencing so much myself. And it's a product of so much that I've done work with women. Though women and men, we do things, the same things can be done by both of us. Today, we have enough research to show that we can solve the same problems, but still women take a different route. We are wired differently. And at the crux of it is a major part of it looking at saying somewhere we have a big relationship with a dimension called fear. And this fear both pushes us and it also pulls us. And between that is where performance and life is. So that put me on to looking at saying, if we could transform our relationship with fear, the way we look at it, the way we translate it, the way we process it, and the whole context of fear as we understand it, I think we could, phenomenally work on ourselves, our, surroundings, and create the results that we really want in our life.
I could not agree more. And I know for me, sometimes there's a fine line between fear and excitement. And sometimes I'm not sure yet if I'm really afraid of something or if I'm just excited and I want it so badly that I'm letting negative thoughts get in the way.
Yes. And also I think, most of our challenges, the human, entire spectrum, if we look at, we begin our understanding, we begin our actions, we begin our thinking from language. So at this point, fear is something which is like a language. We've been conditioned to understand fear in a certain way. But if we start asking questions and we start approaching it from different dimensions, we sometimes realize it's like a friend and it's also someone who guides. So it's like a very beautiful way of re-looking at fear as someone, who's there to help us process our life to the next level. So imagine if we don't have the fear, then we also become, someone who's very, very vulnerable. So this book, aims to redefine the very way we look at fear and also look at the different dimensions through which we can approach it very powerfully, to create the results we want in our life.
Wow. I love the word redefine because you're right. We do understand things through language. And I'm thinking about some of the things that I have had fear about in the past.
Yes.
And it's weird because sometimes it's not really fear. Like when I had my first baby and I didn't know what it was going to be like to go into labor and to give birth, there's a level of fear there. And
exactly.
Yeah, but it's not telling me no, you shouldn't do it.
Exactly.
It is a friend. It's guidance. It's letting me know this is a sacred thing that's about to happen. This is a big transition, and it's smart to have a little bit of fear so you can honor it.
Yes.
Wow. So how, in redefining fear, some of the listeners who are just listening to this show, do you have any tips or tools that can kind of help them redefine fear today?
Yes, very much. So I think one of the first things that I would, look at saying is to personalize the very concept of fear for our own selves. So for each of us, we are experiencing fear in a different dimension. For some of us, it's a picture. For some of us, it's just a stuck feeling. For some of us, it's that, butterfly effect in the body. It's a physiological thing. And for some of us, it's a concept. And it will help us to begin with first knowing what is my own concept of fear. How am I processing it? Where is it existing? Is it in a part of my body? Is it in a way of thinking? Is it in a way of doing? And then relook it at saying that, okay, if this is fear, then what is something else which is possible? That is the first. And the second is to look at, is it really real? Or does it have something to tell me?
I'm writing this down so quickly because I'm like, I don't want to lose this. Wow. Okay. What is my concept of fear? We could spend an hour, I think, talking even about that. Where is it in your body? That is so powerful because sometimes I know for me, as well as for the people that I've worked with, fear is this weird thing that is out there somewhere. And just as you were saying that, I was thinking it does live somewhere, and to define it gives it boundaries, and it makes it more manageable just by doing that.
Exactly. It makes it manageable and makes it more realistic for you to take an action around it. You cannot take an action about something that you don't understand and you can't see and you can't feel. But the
Yeah.
moment now you can pinpoint saying, okay, this is what I'm thinking and this is what is happening, or this is where I'm feeling it and this is what I'm seeing or I'm hearing or I'm experiencing, you know exactly where to take action. At least now you have the scope to respond to it, rather than being, in the freeze mode. Like in the science front, we would say that fear is basically a process from the unconscious, which is your as we say, the fear of it's the flight or the fight mode, which triggers the fear, which is our ancestral brain. And that is an automatic process. But if we are really dealing with it, then we need to bring in our thinking process, our cognitive process into it. And that can only happen when you activate the thinking zone. For something which you have no idea about, you can't put your brain to think. But when you start asking a question, where is it, what is it about, okay, is it an image, is it a sound? When you start asking, you cannot ask these questions to the ancestral brain, which is not processing. It
No,
will activate your front brain. It is going to activate the cognitive thinking brain. So you are actually playing the same game that the brain is playing on you. You're playing it back on them to get the results that you want, get the control back.
absolutely right on. That's amazing. And how easy to ask ourselves questions. That's no matter how stressed or how fearful or how crazy we are,
Yeah.
we can always formulate those questions. Where is
Yes.
it? Is there something else that's possible? And you started to say, what is this about, or what is it teaching me? That's
Yeah.
a really deep one too.
Yeah. And I think one thing that can also help is sometimes, the fear for some of us is like it's really larger than life for us. And at that point, maybe, it's very difficult for us to move it. But if we can look at environments or support, it could be movies, it could be music, it could be books, it could be people who've dealt through that and put ourselves into that immersive environment. That can also help as an anchor, which you can hold on to and, latch yourself out. So I mean, it's about, first of all, the desire to work through fear rather than either being stuck at it or to be at the mercy of it. Treating it like when you want to make friends with something, you want to know more about it and then you want to work with it.
Wow. So, and that got me thinking, and it made me curious. Are there people you've worked with, or have you ever had this situation where somebody is truly not interested in working through it, where they're
Yeah.
just kind of using it as an excuse to stop?
Oh, yeah. True, very true. So, as I said, the beautiful part about when I started doing the book, it just came as a very intuitive thing while working with women. And then I, worked through a lot of science and I found that, yeah, I mean, that's something which really holds us back. But as I started writing the book, I went through all of, the magnitude of it kept increasing, where I had to deal with it and I had to, bring out these different strategies, learn it from different people, drill down deeper and understand the concept for my own self, and to practically do it. For example, if you go onto my Facebook page, it'll have my picture with a lion. Or for example, I'm an asthmatic, but then I've scaled the, and reached one of the, highest mountains, or one of the highest villages in the world. Or I had fear of going on really heights, and today we do like one of the world's highest treacherous roads in the world. So all of that, we've really jumped in and said, oh no, I want to do this. Like, even seeing a dog on a street on some corner, I would run away. And that was an excuse to not stand up for my own self. But the day that I said, okay, if this is keeping me away, then I've actually found my way, where I've, literally walked up to the tiger and said, listen, I want to hold you, right? So that, I can overcome my own fear and I can find this new person in me. Now it's whether it's a dog or anything, you just know that, okay, you've dealt with the tiger, so it's not a big deal. So it's a conscious effort to move there. And when you say, you're very right, most of us are not even conscious about it, and there's nothing wrong about it. That's the way we are designed, to be in our comfort zone. And how we stay in our comfort zone is by being reasonable. And one of the easiest reasons to give is to quote something which is not something you can point your finger on, which is the easiest is to, quote something called fear, because nobody can find it for you, right? Even you don't know where it is. So yes, we're very reasonable about it. And a lot of times when we work with clients, they're not even aware that it is, no matter what you're seeing on the surface, if you root it really deep down, most of our challenges, most of our behavior patterns, you will see the ones that don't work for us actually stem from fear. So obviously, we don't want to let it go and let this whole fear thing be worked around, because we don't want to deal with things. We want to be in our comfort zone, no matter how painful it is. I'm sure you've heard of this, right? Like sometimes we've got so used to pain that we now don't want to let go of that. So we are most times in that, excuse zone. And what really helps is to have a bigger reason to work on it, rather than, the whole concept of trying to resist fear. If there is a bigger purpose, for example, something that you want to do for a loved one, or a higher desire you have for, your own self or your dreams or any of that, that can help us to pull the person out from this reasonableness. But yes, it's very, very prevalent.
Yeah, you're right on when you talk about having that bigger purpose helps, because we do become very complacent in who we are and what happens in our life. But oh my goodness, if it's your child or a parent or a loved one or a spouse, yes, there's great need to change. And then sometimes all of a sudden it snowballs and you have to do all of this work. And I was just thinking it might be easier along the way to continue chipping away at recognizing our fears and recognizing where we're holding ourselves back. So when something happens and we really, really want to change or need to change, at least we're familiar with the process.
Yes, very much. And in fact, if I have to give you, the whole book covers all these different dimensions from where, you can pick up these different, like how you go out and you can wear different glasses, different models. It's like that. You will have a number of different perspectives from where you can look at fear and redefine it for you, choose alternatives. It's like, going to your wardrobe and picking up saying, which way do I want to look at my fear today? So you will have all of that. And apart from that, there are a lot of strategies, tools from Asian system, like India is like the Asian cradle of, so much of wisdom. So we've done a lot of work around picking out those things which are very simple, effective. And then there is so much of latest science today to work around the cognitive processes, neurosciences and all. So all of this is, packed together such that, women don't have a reason anymore to, stay where they are. They can just move forward.
Absolutely.
Right? And if I have to give you a very, very simple technique to do, it's a very simple breathing exercise. Just one simple breathing exercise, if you can practice for 6 seconds, that itself will let you go of the fear. Just that. Which is simple. Even no matter what level of fear you're experiencing, breathing is something which is always in your control.
Yes. And you're right. Nobody, if we're breathing, nobody knows that we're doing something. Nobody knows that we're managing our fears. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into your work doing NLP and, being a healing practitioner and using the yoga. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the modalities that you use and how they can help listeners overcome some of their fears?
Okay, so not just from the perspective of fear. So, fear is just one thing because, as I was working with women, I'm seeing that, that's like a key player, underplaying and, managing that whole work around what we do as women. So that is one concept. Otherwise, if we look at the entire space of human potential and human development, we say we have really evolved, but if we look at where really evolution has happened, it's in a very small part of the brain. Very, very small part of the brain. And one of the things that we are, really stepping up, and today we are dependent on technology to take us forward, whereas we ourselves are a powerhouse. So one blessing I had was, I got into all of this space at a very young age, and I was time and again introduced to very different modalities. So, the same human being or the human aspects, I could look at it from different perspectives. So I learned, I was a Reiki master, I got initiated into Kriya Yoga, a lot of these things at a very young age. So the whole perspective was, I could understand all of that, but we have to come and explain to people, I need the help of science, I need the help of day-to-day, demonstrations to help people. I need supporting, psychology and all of that. So if I have to put something on as a message, one thing is, as human beings, what we have been doing is we have compartmentalized ourselves. So if you look at any field of personal development or any of that, it either addresses mind, it either addresses body, or it addresses the intellect, or it addresses a certain way of doing something. Whereas if you take any moment, including your breathing, it's an integrated process. I mean, it's, if you actually start asking the real questions, you'll realize you can't compartmentalize this. These are all different ways to approach and reach the same place. I mean, they're all integrated in a very beautiful way. You can't separate energy from what you're thinking. Everything you're thinking has energy. You can't separate your breathing from your thinking. You can't separate your physical posture from your thinking. So it's all integrated. So it's, I think, high time we took a overall view into saying, what is my personal effective model? And I think that is a blessing that I have been blessed with, to look at something from a very holistic perspective of having a science background, being an engineer, analytics, and bringing that energy perspective. And that gives the whole concept of human beings so much. It's like one of the biggest marvels in the universe. I mean, you can endlessly study it, and every time you try to study it, it's even more amazing. So one thing I think we need to start looking at is look at the same problem or challenge or whatever we are working on, and try to address it from different angles, because anything can have an answer for us. Anything can have the next big leap for us. I've seen a lot of people who say, explain this to me in logic. But I mean, if I have to explain something in logic, then what's the logic for gravity?
Right.
It just works. But it is science. I mean, science today explains how gravity may have an effect and how you can calculate. But gravity in itself, what is the logic? Why is it there? I mean, who put it there? But if you explain it from energy, and if you explain it from other angles, it is very much possible. So I think it's time we look at saying, what's my goal, where am I going, and what all can I integrate, what all can I bring into, I mean, whichever tool helps me, rather than confining myself to saying I will only take the book route, intellect route, or energy route, or kind of separating it out. Being open to the whole process of being humans, because I think we are the only people who can talk about all of this. The other animals don't even get the opportunity to discuss who we are and how all we can approach it. So
I am so passionate about the integrated approach, and it just makes my heart sing to hear you talk about that, and to know that you're sharing that same idea with the world. Because my background is a lawyer, very much, in your head. But I realized when I was practicing law and I was too much in my head, I was disconnected to my heart and my body. And it impacted the way that I felt and the way that I interacted with people. And we are fully integrated beings. And I know, when I start my day, even if it's not a formal meditation, even if I'm just laying there in my bed and I allow myself to think of something positive and feel gratitude, it shifts my thinking for the entire day. It shifts my interactions. And it sounds funny, but I look better on those days, because I don't there's worried and stress. I'm open, and it is an integrated thing. And no, we can't necessarily explain all of it, but I think every human being alive can feel the difference integration makes.
So beautiful that you're using so much of this. And I think, like as you said, we we're such a beautiful species. We're actually participating. We're like co-creating with the universe. But, as long as we're trying to look through those small, small, narrow windows where, we're trying to fit life into something, it kind of loses its magic. And the moment that you allow life to flow through, whichever dimension it's flowing in, it's very beautiful to, watch and experience. Specifically the aspect that you said, gratitude is an antidote for fear.
Yes, so much, so much. And I know when that's the emotion that I try to move into often, because it just opens me up. And then even if I am about to do something that is scary or it makes me nervous, I just focus on the gratitude of having the opportunity. And it doesn't matter what happens, I still have that opportunity, and things tend to go better for me when I'm just excited about them.
Yeah, and there's so much science to it. So if you look at, like we were discussing before, the fear stems from the primitive brain, which is it just knows to fight and flight. But the moment you can bring gratitude, that is not part of the brain which will stay active. Gratitude has to come from putting something at focus, thinking about it, visualizing it, and experiencing it, which has to activate your other parts of thinking, which will move you into constructive action. So that's like, your brain is hijacked, and then you know how to bring it out naturally. So gratitude is like a very simple switch. You just put it on and ta-dang, you're on a performance mode. So it's so beautiful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I do like having that rational description, that the reason why, because then it does make sense. It's not just that this is some magical thing that happens. No, it is getting us out of that primitive brain. It's using both hemispheres, it's using, so that makes sense.
And that's helped, because when you I had this challenge long back when I was talking about energy and these things about as a concept, as a philosophy. It's very hard for young people to pick it up. They're like, why? They want to know reasons. So then taking the help of science and all these aspects which help them really connect with saying, okay, yes, there is something at work, because that's how things work for them, right? Gadgets have a logic. So I think it really helps to take the inputs from one dimension and then take the help of another dimension to explain it, such that people can start using it. They're not keeping themselves away from gratitude because they can't understand, it's too vague.
Right.
So I think that's what we need to do, right? All of us who are enjoying it need to pass it forward to people who need it.
Yes. Now, I know you do a lot of training, education, corporate learning, things like that. Do you find that younger people are more easily able to implement these concepts, or are older people just as open to this? What is your experience with teaching?
I think ultimately the moment we're able to spark the learner in the room, which is no matter what age group. I've also been doing a lot of work with very young ones, 3-year-olds and up to the 60 plus. So my whole breadth span of work is very, very wide. But then what I experience is no matter which room we walk into, we're able to turn around and make results, because we are not trying to give them something. The first thing we do is ask them to ask for what they want, which is you make the learner ready. Once you do that, then no matter who you're serving, they want it, and so they take it. But if I have to give you a general take, I think it's only the flow which is different. The younger ones are they kind of land a little close in the beginning, but when they open up, they're like rocket. They just go boom. And the elder ones have learned to kind of display that they're interested, but they're really not in the room. It takes some time for them to really trust, and then introspect and open themselves. They've had so many experiences, they've kind of really shut themselves close. So it takes a little while. They'll project that they're learning, but it's only some time that you realize that really they're open, and now they're beginning to learn. And it takes a lot of effort for them, even though they want to learn, for them to implement something, because there are so many unconscious patterns and barriers that they have built for themselves. So though they want it, they know they need to do it, and still there is something else holding them back. So to put down that defense system, help them to really take the action, make the change, it is a lot of effort. It's like, the more you've been building more bricks, right, the higher the tower. With the
Yes.
younger ones, I think the tower is very small. It just takes a few minutes and then they're like boom. So I think yes, they're like massive and they have huge potential.
Yes. And you had mentioned that you came to a lot of the work that you do very young. So
Yeah.
how wonderful that you have had all these years to build good habits and to learn
Yeah.
good skills. And I commend you for working with the younger generations, because I really feel like we can heal our world
Oh, truly.
through, these children.
Truly. In fact, we have done one curriculum, which is now in, I think, almost 8-10 countries. And the curriculum totally revolves around giving the whole learning onus on children. It's not like a teacher is going to teach a child, but a child is going to learn from what is happening in the room. And that is purely built on this whole concept of saying that each of us is trying to learn and take something which is important for me, rather than take what's important for me. Like, I mean, if I'm teaching what I think is important for you.
Right.
But a child wants to take what he's seeing as important for him. So we've designed this, and I think the way children are turning around, and the kind of joy and the kind of perspectives that they're bringing, we're hearing from adults in the room, teachers saying that even I didn't look at it from this perspective. So I mean, it's beautiful when you start working with human beings. I think every day is like, wow, I mean, what level of possibilities and what level of magic is possible. And children are truly healing the world. Especially the one lot now is just amazing. I mean, they say the things which you've never thought can be said. They bring out ideas which you've just never even imagined. Those are like things we can even put together. So I think we're in for great times if we leave them in a space where they can be themselves, rather than fiddling around and trying to fit them into any system.
Right. I appreciate so much how you said we learn what is of interest to us, because I was thinking about, there have been so many times I have picked up a book or started to listen to a podcast, and although the subject matter is interesting, it's not relevant to me at that moment, so I put it down or I quit listening.
Yes.
And then it might be 6 months later, I think, oh, I have this book. Well, suddenly it's relevant to me and I eat it up. But
Yes.
until I was ready to receive it, I wouldn't have learned it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really am thankful for with podcasts and shows like this that we're doing. We can get this teaching and this knowledge out there, and listeners who are ready can find the information. Listeners who are ready to transcend their own fear can move into it. And even if somebody might not be ready now, it might just be that bug in their ear that, oh yeah, there was that show, I have to go back to that. Or there's this book coming up, or, oh, this might be relevant for somebody else.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so amazing. Actually, I think the work that you're doing, when you are on a podcast, you are connecting people who are completely disconnected. I mean, you're like a bridge in between. And if you look at, you get the maximum. You're listening to so many people, and unconsciously, you molding your own self, which is such a beautiful opportunity.
Yes.
And I think I'm learning so much from you for the kind of energy that you bring out for a listener. I'm sure the way that you do it and the purpose and intention that you're bringing can shift the game for whoever is listening. And if I have to give one thing that each of us needs to really start focusing on, I know there are so many books out there, so many techniques, and so much to process. But even if we can take that one thing and process and kind of spend every day that 5 minutes on that one thing in our life, it will drastically support every other area of our life. Then it is the breathing of a human being. And there is so much science into what we can do in just 1 minute, 2 minute, then you can't even say I don't have the time, it's just 2 minutes. But if we can do those things, I think, everything else falls in place. Despite, we talking about energy, even if we don't want to go into all of that, if we can get this one thing right, which is our breathing, and love it for what it is doing to us. I mean, if it's not there, if we hold our nose for a few seconds and if you can't feel it, right, there's nothing else which matters. So giving attention, love, gratitude, and then maybe following a few right practices in breathing can really put everybody on, the right tracks for themselves. And from there, obviously, we'll have the bandwidth to pick up all other things, whether we want to, learn through books, intellect, you want to learn techniques, you want to learn from experts, all of that can come in. But I think as humanity, all of us need to, really put our breathing to priority.
Let's talk a little bit more about breathing, because everybody listening to this show right now is breathing. And just when you say the word breathing, it causes a little bit of the shift, and we start noticing our breath more.
Exactly. So something which is making you awake every day, something which is managing so much of your process without your awareness, it doesn't wait for you to, tell what to do next. It just does its work without nobody paying attention to it through the whole day. So, I mean, just like you said, just to 2 minutes, bringing the focus back into saying, hey, listen, there's something happening inside me. I mean, there is what's going in, what's going out. That itself is, beautiful. In fact, that's what is the whole concept of when you start paying attention to something, it starts working better.
Yes. Now, I'm curious about some of the listeners out there who might be thinking, oh, I know there's a ton to learn about breathing, but I don't do yoga. I don't practice pranayama.
Not required. Completely not required. It's just a simple thing. For example, if you have a very fast breathing and you try feeling very happy, it's not going to be there. You're going to feel anxious. If you're going to have a very smooth breathing and you try to get angry, that's also not going to work. So all we need to do is know what is the breathing and, what do I experience with that, and just try to bring it back. If I'm upset, I'm feeling anxious, I just relax myself down by not wondering of what should I do, just work on the breathing. Just say, can I mellow it down? Can I, just make it soft? Can I make it smooth? Like, can I just flow with it? Like, can I just dance with it? Naturally, I mean, that's very easy for us to do.
Yes.
Naturally, your mood and your space will fall into it. But if you're, for example, feeling very low energy, then it's time to do a little fast breathing. Your energy will pick up.
Yeah.
So these are very basic common sense stuff that we can start experimenting. We don't need anybody from outside to tell us. I think we're very smart as human beings, but all we need is the desire to work with it, to get present to what is my relationship with my breathing. Do I even know what breathing takes me to what kind of a mood, to what kind of energy? I mean, can I start looking at what works for me? I mean, like how much time we spend on our wardrobes looking at saying, oh, look at this suits me. But how much time do we spend on our breathing looking at saying what kind of breathing gives me what kind of an effect? So it's like, putting attention to that and saying, okay, and it's time to do, breathe design, like looking at saying, okay, which is my outfit for today, which is my breath for today. At this moment, I want to feel hot. I want to feel energetic, so I need to do that kind of breathing. If I need to feel calm, I need to do that kind of breathing. And the beauty with breathing is it's like a switch process. You just do it for once or twice and it will follow the pattern. You don't have to do it for an hour or two for you to, get into that zone. It's just, even if you switch the pattern once, twice, it will start flowing on the pattern that you picked up. So that's something very simple.
Yes, that's so easy. It's done for us. It's less effort than going to the gym. It's less effort than hiring some trainer to help you. It's just something you can do.
At least we can begin at that. And as we develop the relationship with it, then you want to master it, and then you can go on and pick up what works for you. For some people, yoga works. For some people, there are specific breathing things work, and there are so many other simple aspects which you can work on. So I think from there you can pick up the journey. But at least can we give that 2 minutes in our day, just giving our attention attention, awareness on what is my breathing about, and am I really inhaling? In fact, you'll be surprised. I don't know if you know about it, but if you put your finger under your nostrils, we have two nostrils. If you put your
Yes.
finger there, you'll realize we actually are not using the two. It's
True.
just one going in. I mean, so what are we doing with our bodies?
That's true. That is so true. I know I've done that with the alternate nostril breathing
Yeah.
yoga. One side I'm always not breathing out of.
But the moment I bring this to awareness, now suddenly your brain starts saying, oh, really? I'm not using the other side. Okay, do something about it, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's all that we need. We just need the attention, the awareness, and the love for it to, work with it and build a personal relationship with it. That's all.
Wow. This reminds me, earlier this week, I was reading, and I can't even remember what I was reading, if it was a blog or an article, but I was reading about the brain because I love the brain and I love humans. And I read that we are only actively, consciously focused and thinking for about 30 minutes a day. The rest of the time, we're on autopilot or we're just having little flicks of thought. And that was stunning to me. But when you were talking about 2 minutes can change our day, well, if we're really only thinking 30 minutes a day, 2 minutes is a pretty significant portion of that. So
exactly.
It might sound like it's a teeny tiny amount of time, but really that is enough to change our whole day.
Yeah, and the simple thing to understand is we all have our phones, right? And when we have so many applications on it, so many windows open and it hangs. One is you can keep complaining about it being, a drag and, maybe it's not working fine and all. But the moment you reset it, it will start working at the same level of its best performance. And that's what you do with breathing. The 2-minute attention is like a reset button. I mean, we don't know when was the last time we even reset ourselves, right? So it's so beautiful on that. And in fact, if for people who really want to go into the depth of it, there's a very beautiful book by someone who has worked around the spirituality of it, the science of it. And he's someone that even including Steve Jobs has followed. And he's also my guru, which is Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's a very beautiful book called Autobiography of a Yogi. Anybody who picks up, finds it so interesting. And that can just, give you a different dimension to saying there's so much about breath.
Yes, I too have read that book and it's phenomenal. And it does just provoke a different level of thought and a different perspective. And it truly has altered my life.
Yes.
Well, you are doing so much good in the world with younger people, with older people, with the integration of the body, the mind, the spirit. What is next for you? Where do you want to go from here?
So I have been doing a lot of work on, applying all of this and, helping transform the way we learn, especially, whether it is gamifying a process and, putting in all these elements. So I have done all of that. But I think one thing which is really needed and also helping is, there's one key ingredient in this entire ecosystem, which is women. The minute we can, shift the game for women, by default, families have a shift. By default, their communities have a shift. And, nothing like empowering them, because we are like, each of us is powerhouse. I mean, I don't know how much I can do alone. But, if more women can pick it up, we're natural givers, we're natural processors. I mean, I'm sure even if you've taken one thing, right, you're going to spread it to so many more people. Yeah. So I think, I've been last few years, I've been working a lot around, women leadership, women entrepreneurship. And there's a lot of focus work I'm doing around specifically saying, how do we turn around the entrepreneurship game for women? Because, entrepreneurship is it's a divine game. It's not an intellect game at all. It's like a combination of so many things. It's such a space of uncertainty where you have to bring your best skills. And if, we can power women to play that game, I think we shift the whole way the world works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean, women taking on, so much money which is left on the table. I mean, if we have, we naturally give. I mean, I've not seen anybody who just consumes. Every woman is somewhere contributing the money that comes to you. So I think we should play that game and, go and, say, we're not, somewhere behind. We're just marching up ahead. So I think I'm working more towards that and seeing that, more of us can take more of these things and make life more meaningful, productive, profitable. After all, there's so much abundance. I travel a lot, and especially the Himalayas, and nature is so abundant. And I think we're designed to experience that abundance rather than getting stuck with our emotional hormones and all of that. That gives us a feeling of as if we're just running like a machine. So I think I really want to work in that space, and that's where I'm moving now. So that's next for me, and from there I think there'll be more which will come. So
mhm. I am so passionate about women as well, and I couldn't agree more with what you were saying, how women share and that natural collaboration between women. And I think in the past some of that has gotten lost because in so many parts of the world, women were viewed as a second-class citizen, so that women kind of started fighting amongst themselves as well
hmm.
to regain status. And I feel across the globe right now a softening of that and an embracing, a re-embracing of the sisterhood and the
Yes.
collective. And it's very powerful. And what I want to express to our listeners who might be listening and thinking, that we're talking about radical feminism or something, it's very peaceful, it's very loving. It's not about putting other people down. It's about, like you
Exactly.
said, yeah, making everybody better. We are better to our children, to our spouses, to our friends, to our families. And that giving, yes, we do raise everybody up.
Yeah, and the beauty is, I think, in all of this, that women are able to move, and it's the men who are really supporting it generously. And I think it's time that we understand there is actually, it's just different wiring, and it's just different sides of the same game, and it's about being together and balancing it and working. It's time to collaborate as the two genders and say what is the best that each of us have and what do we bring to the table. For that, we have to be there at the table.
Yes, yes, we absolutely do. And you're right, it's that mutual respect of, well, these are my
Yes.
strengths and these are somebody else's strengths. And that's very
Yes.
powerful. Yeah, very powerful. Now, I know you're also involved in a group called All Ladies League.
Yes.
Yes, would you like to say a little bit more about that? Because I'm guessing there's listeners out there who are thinking, I agree with both of you, but where do I find this collective sisterhood?
Oh, it's such a beautiful space, and I think the founder also Harbin. It's such a visionary thing, just to imagine. I mean, there's no way that I would be connecting with some other person in some other continent, but it's such a beautiful bond. In all, we have sisterhood as the main center point. Like as we say, gravity. There has to be something which towards which we all gravitate, and looking at soul sisterhood, not just sisterhood, soul sisterhood. And as across the globe, all of us gravitating towards each other through that bond, and as she calls it, the Shakti Bandhan. It's such a beautiful concept. In fact, I have one of my chapters in India, in Chennai, and everybody's amazed. We have 150 women, and they're like, I've never seen a group like this. I've never been, I mean, everybody's on WhatsApp. We have been so many groups, but they say this is one group which is like my source of strength every day, source of energy every day. If I need to become focused, if I need to become confident, I come back to this group. And like that, we have an all community in every part of the world, which itself, on a moral level, on a thinking level, on a productivity level, I think we're a strong force coming together, not for any material stuff, but really wanting to know each other, connect. And I think it looks just like magical, like a fantasy, but it's live, it's really there. And for all the women, we don't have any riders on who should be part of it. We are very so inclusive. We are really looking at having all our women together. So
Mm-hmm.
I think all is such a beautiful platform. Everybody's welcome, and there's so much vision, mission working around that, and nobody is demanded of anything except bringing your best self and helping the community grow. So I mean, you and I are also part of it, right? So it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, we are connected, and all we need to do is wake up that connection and start collaborating, start working around it. So just I think it's a blessing, and at the right time, when there's so much of change and shift in awareness, consciousness, as you said, there's so much of softening around the world for women to step up. I think this is a beautiful ecosystem, support structure, strength for all of us.
Yes. And I'd like to add, when I first became involved and I heard the term soul sister, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect, because in the US, I have been a part of networking groups and I have been a part of support groups. But this is so different. This is so rich and so deep. And the women that I have connected with around the world are so willing to share both their pain points and their struggles, but as also their gifts and their strengths. And they're so willing to talk about themselves and their cultures and the learning and the connection that is going on between us. I think it's unlike anything I've experienced before.
Truly.
Yes. Truly. And it is sharing, but it's not like anybody's hitting up other people and being like, buy my product, or it's not, it's a network, but it's not networking. It truly is a heart soul connection, woman to woman. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Just, for example, I'm just going to share this with the listeners. We had this interview scheduled for a week ago, and my son was ill. So I emailed and said, would you mind, can we postpone this? There was this gratitude for me that Vidya was able to reschedule graciously. It wasn't like in a normal business atmosphere where you think, I have to power through and I have to meet this deadline and I have to sacrifice myself or my family. Yes, and then not only was Vidya gracious about saying, no problem, we can reschedule, then she offered to send some distance Reiki healing to my son. And again, it's like that. It's the support. Yes, she helped me take care of my family. It's that level of connection and understanding, and it's truly beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's what the world needs today, because I mean, it's a very high end, but then it is today proven at the quantum level. It's just everything is connected. We have so much of compartmentalization that we're just not even able to connect with the people in our own homes.
Yes.
And if the moment you can experience this connection with somebody in some continent, right, then automatically there is so much more possibility for us to connect with everything at a deeper level. So I think ultimately the power of collectively coming together is much stronger than what I can individually do. So I think this movement really supports that, and brings the best of each of us. Like when I heard about it, more than looking at saying what is a podcast about or what are we trying to do in the interview, I was more concerned about I've been a mother as well. I was more concerned about your son, right? So I think that's what we are naturally as women. We do accomplish tasks, but at the same time we know what are our priorities, and we want to have it in the flow rather than trying to cut it through and bring that aggression into the game. So I think it's so beautiful, and I'm glad I think we could connect, and we don't know how many listeners we're going to connect with, and it's just that we're strangers waiting to meet.
Yes. And that flow, the word that you said, flow, is so important, because life does flow. And there are days where we accomplish a lot of things. And there are days where we are peaceful and resting. And there are days where we're connecting. And it was so powerful when you said a few moments ago that sometimes we even have troubles connecting with those in our own house. And it hit me how many people out there are so lonely and they're starved for connection, and they
True.
just don't know how to quite get there.
Yes, that's so true. I think one of the recent studies says that the biggest disease in the planet right now is loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for us to reach out to people and make it saying that you can reach out, you have people, you don't have to worry about you having to shoulder everything. There is enough support. All you need to do is just walk away from your own cage and just reach out. I'm sure when you're able to connect with people, they will respond, and people will embrace it. So
yes,
we need to outgrow that loneliness.
Yes. And I'm thinking how much of that loneliness is just caused by fear. The fear
hugely.
of doing it. Yeah. So the education that you're doing, I think that's going to combat a lot of the loneliness, because it lets people realize what I want and what I need, this connection, is greater than my fear.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So I congratulate you so much for doing this work and for spreading love and flow and, grace throughout the planet. And it's my intention that this show goes far and wide, that all the lonely people out there can hear it, and then that they can maybe have that spark of, you know what, let's move into my fear, let's move into my breath, and let's transcend and grow.
Yes, and it's very easy. It's something that all of us can do, because all of us have fear and all of us have breath.
Yes, we do. Now,
so thank you for the prayers, and I also pray that your prayers reach everyone, as much that we can reach together.
Absolutely, thank you. For any listeners who might want to get in touch with you or learn more, do you have a website or do you have a publication date for your book? Because I want to make sure you connect with those people out there who need to connect with you.
Yes, so there is a website, vidyaragu.in. There is also, I think one of the best ways to connect today is, social media, which is FB. And so you can find on Vidya Ragu, which is VIDYARAGU. That's possible. And apart from that, for the book, there is a lot of work that we're also doing around meeting women and seeing the ones who are, everybody's transcended, but then we're trying to call out the distinctions which can, help people relate to and, say that they have done it, so I can do it myself. Right. Yeah. So we're in that process right now. So I am anticipating it should be, done this year.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I will put your contact information in the show notes as well. And listeners, you can always get in touch with me and I can connect you with Vidya as well.
Yeah, that'll be great as well.
Yes. So listeners, lauracheadle.com, laura@lauracheadle.com. I can connect you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on my show today.
Thank you so much for creating such a beautiful platform for us to take our message, to people we don't even know, and, we don't know who we connect to. And you are our connecting bond. Thank you for the work you do.
You are welcome. Listeners, have a fantastic, magical week. And as usual, don't forget to flaunt.
Tune in next time to Flaunt. Build your dreams, live your sparkle with radio host Lora Cheadle every Wednesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come release self-judgment, reveal your naked self-worth, and re-choreograph a life filled with joy. Flaunt. Find your fetish, laugh out loud, accept unconditionally, navigate the negative, and trust in your truth. Find out more at lauracheadle.com. That's LORACHEADLE.com.